We are live, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, welcome everybody. Today is January 18th. This is our weekly county commissioner meeting. At this time, I would please ask everyone to rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Dave, for leading us. Everybody get a chance to look at the agenda. Any additions or corrections? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda for today as it stands.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We're going to get right into our commissioner discussion. All of these are action items. The first one is the meeting minutes of January 3rd. Anybody have a concern about those?
Didn't see any issues.
I had a couple things I sent to Doug this morning.
So did you get them? Is in there? Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve the meeting minutes of January 3rd.
I'll second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Our next item is also an action item. This is the meeting minutes of January 10th.
I looked at those earlier. I can't remember if I sent anything to Doug or not, to be
Not
honest
on
with
those,
you.
did not.
No, I was gonna say my
Okay,
comments were
then.
on the 10th as well, not the 3rd. I'll make a motion we approve the minutes of January 10th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye, motion carries.
Morning.
Morning, Jeremy.
So on the next one, I have a comment. So we are submitting a letter to P&Z to request a review of the zoning overlays. But what if that's not the direction that they want to go? I mean, that's like we're giving them direction to do zoning overlay. I would prefer that we do a letter of request to planning and zoning to begin research on how zoning should occur within the county and allow them to do a full review of all different types of overlays, zones, whatever it. you know,
I agree,
whatever
and I
they-
think that was the intent, is that they wanted direction to move forward with researching, and I don't think that we limited them to just the overlays. We talked about like a hybrid model.
Yeah, because
of-
during that last meeting, it was discussed that overlays may not be the direction they wanted to go.
Right.
So
No, I think we just change that to the,
okay.
Do we have an actual letter?
Yeah, I could get one. done
You know, I
really-
think it's how you word that letter. I would also think about not only what they are recommending or suggesting, but if they want to take that task on.
well, they said they would take it on. They asked just that we,
But I think that should be
Formally
a
request
formal
that from them.
request, Dave.
Okay. And maybe within that request, ask if they want assistance from some kind of a consultant or, how they want to approach it.
You could do that, I guess. I think the thing to keep in the back of your mind is the last time we talked about doing this years ago now was it was going to be between $200,000 and $300,000 to hire a consultant to help with that process. There's a ton of public hearings and a lot of expense to it.
I think it's similar to the process we're going through with waterways right now. I mean, I think it's a big enough issue that we have to look at it. And we may have to try to go out for an RFP on a consultant or firm to help us with that process.
I know that when I've talked to the commissioners, they had expressed the fact that, the comp plan all needs to be redone soon too. And they didn't want to do that without some kind of consultant on board.
Right.
So
And when was the last time? Was it 18 they redid that?
18.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be reviewed every 5 years.
So it's kind of coming up to that. So I guess what I would like to do is postpone the decision on this until we see the actual letter.
I will get a letter started and send out for your guys' review and.
Rick, thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm happy to help.
Okay, so then we'll move on down to our agenda. Our next item is an action item. This is to sign the Idema annual maintenance contract for jail fingerprint machine. And I don't know if Brian, if you've seen this one.
And is this in the sheriff's budget? Doug, do you know if that was included in her budget?
It's an annual thing, isn't it, Doug?
We've had it for quite a while, so it should be.
It is.
Don't think it was included in our packet, was it?
It was, yeah. So
Oh,
Doug
shoot.
did a couple of those on SharePoint, which I don't know if you have SharePoint on your,
Sorry, they were too large to do.
Oh. Don't have that capability.
bring it back up again if you want to look at it.
So, because it's on SharePoint, it wasn't included in my packet. But this is just an annual deal that we've done. There's no changes, and Brian's good with it. I'm willing to go forward with it. If that's what you guys so concur.
I move to approve this Idema annual maintenance contract.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, the next one is the MOU with Brundage Mountain Ski Area Search and Rescue, and I didn't know we had such a thing.
No, we did either.
One with them and Tamarack.
So my questions are this. Basically, it goes back to the same questions I have for search and rescue. So this is just outside the boundaries. Do they leave the resort? Or do they, it's just because someone is skied outside the boundary that we actually have to do this?
They could be called out for like a snowmobile related injury if they were the closest responding group, like out on, let's say Brundage Reservoir. But I think for the most part, this applies to their permit area, which is larger than the ski area boundary.
Okay. So if they are search and rescue, do they have access to those Title III funds for equipment?
Those are questions I have no idea. I would think that they're more of like a posse, like they basically just get activated if they are needed for those areas. I don't know why they couldn't apply for those funds.
Okay.
Being part of it.
So it's just basically work comp insurance that we are going to be taking care of. What if they rain equipment? I mean, what else are we, anything else that we're guaranteeing is, or it's just work comp? Have we done this in the past, Doug?
We have.
We signed this last year. That last year was the first year that it had been implemented.
We had the one with Tamarack for quite a few years though before that, haven't we?
Not officially, no. Again, my understanding, this was something that was approached to.
I was gonna say, I remember doing both of these
Sheriff's
last
office,
year.
yeah.
I think it's just kind of an effort to tighten up some loose ends, make sure that they are covered when we ask them to go out on a search, or if they, certainly Oki could answer those questions better than I can, but
Agreed.
that's my
And
understanding.
my question is when search and rescue went out and did their research, they found out that they did not have healthcare insurance for their guys. They didn't have a lot of other insurance. So I just want to make sure that we're not only addressing work comp, but that we're identifying anything that, would fall to the county. I guess this is coming from them, so all they want is work comp. So,
Well, it talks about it's got to be included on a roster submitted to the sheriff's office. So I'm assuming that before as they call us out, we would have that list available of who it is. But
It was in our packet.
why wouldn't their own insurance cover that?
they're outside the boundaries of the resort.
Yeah.
So they've left the resort basically, and now they're Valley County. And yeah, they've got paid staff, they've got volunteer staff. Again, we're entering into a contract that we have no idea how they train their volunteers.
This is sheriff's here.
Good training. That's not it. Like I said, this to me, I read through it, and it only covers workman's compensation while they're involved in a search and rescue operation.
Larry, have we ever called them? Do you know have they ever been called out on anything outside of just the resort?
They have.
Yeah,
They have.
We've been called out. We've had our groomer up there a couple times.
Their cat ski program is also part of this. And then they're oftentimes the first responder in the backcountry. They carry advanced medical equipment on the cats. I know when I was working there, we responded to like 2 different femur fractures. People went through the handlebars on their snowmobiles. Avalanche incidents. Yeah, I mean, they're a good first response team.
The most difficult part about us being called out is that there is no reimbursement because it's a skier. If it was a snowmobiler, we get reimbursed.
I'm just concerned about county liability. I mean, if we're accepting it, if it's just for work comp, and that's all they're asking, great.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they get out there and something happens to their equipment or whatever, how are they covered? I mean,
I was gonna say, this isn't a request for assistance from Valley County Rec. It's just a request to involve Brundage Mountain Ski Patrol.
Absolutely.
So,
and we're only
We're not-
covering their work comp.
yeah, we're not
So
covering any
this
costs.
MOU doesn't obligate us to anything else other than work comp.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Brian Oakey with the Valley County Prosecutor's Office. This is a tricky MOU from a liability perspective. And I think first of all, search and rescue is certainly a service that is valuable to the ski resorts as well as the citizens of the county. So
Absolutely.
please don't take my comments that it would be otherwise. However, typically workman's comp is provided by an employer rather than the type of insurance that you would get for an outside entity. So it blurs the line as to what the relationship is between the county and this search and rescue entity. The MOU didn't clarify or didn't make it very clear from my perspective what the relationship is between this search and rescue team. Are they independent contractors? Are they employees of Brundage Ski Resort, or are they just volunteers? I believe, if I remember right, they're just volunteers. But
No, it's a combo of paid and most of these are professionals.
Right.
It says in the MOU, it's just the Brundage Mountain personnel, patrol personnel.
So when an entity like Valley County provides workman's comp insurance, that's going to make it appear as if they are within the scope of our employment and we are directing the day-to-day operations. And so that can really complicate things. So for future MOUs, I would recommend that we kind of flush that issue out with if we have a relationship with Tamarack and with Brundage, that we sit down at the table and maybe with a little bit more clarity and detail as to what the relationship is, and we don't make it appear by signing this MOU that they're within the scope of our employment, because if they are, then if there is any liability that is not covered by workman's comp, we could be on the hook for something like that. And so I think that a little bit more clarity would be helpful in the future. I understand it's January and people are skiing, and we may be able to make it through this particular ski season, but in future years, maybe a project that we could work on.
I would imagine, this is a pretty common arrangement between search and rescue groups, sheriff's departments, and ski patrols throughout the western United States.
Mm-hmm.
I would think that probably somewhere there exists a contract or an MOU that probably spells all that out very
right.
clearly.
And if I can get some other examples, and my comfort level will be at ease. But I do remember looking at this one a while back and kind of wondering how this relationship works. And I know that I think that the ski resorts would be hesitant to go beyond the boundaries of the ski resort if they're asked to or required to absorb or assume all of the risk of doing that. So I think we need to be at least understanding of what their perspective is as well.
I don't remember who the insurer is for most of the ski resorts in the West now, but it's like one company, and I think that's within their liability coverage, is that they cannot respond to an incident outside their permit area without, implicit request from the county.
That would make sense.
So our work comp, have we researched that though to make sure that they're actually covered? Our work comp would just say not employees, not covering it.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, even with an MOU, there's no guarantee that our insurance, unless we've fleshed that out, will actually cover
Correct.
anything.
Correct.
And I think that's what we need to research more than anything is our side of it, because, like you just said, they could be denied, and then where are we?
Mhm.
What I don't understand is why, if Brundage asks their people to go outside their area on a search and rescue, why they're not still covered under the workman's comp? If their director, their boss has said, hey, we need you guys to do this.
If it's a limit of their coverage, then they're assuming the risk without the insurance coverage to go out and go beyond where they're.
But you're recommending, Brian, we go ahead and sign this one for this year?
I think the risk of not having this service is greater than the risk of the liability, the potential liability that we're talking about. I'm really just standing here saying that I would like to know and understand more about what the relationships are between the parties and how the insurance will apply and affect us for future years. But of course, the search and rescue is a high risk. It's a high risk operation, which increases the level. But the consequence of not having that service, I think, is worse than the alternative.
Well, to be clear too, I mean, they're not going outside their boundaries without calling dispatch and getting clearance first. So it's not that they're just deciding that they're going to go after a ski or snowmobile that's close by the ski area. I mean, they may be 15 or 20 minutes of response time versus search and rescue or McCall Fire being hours.
And just standing here at the podium, that very scenario, and I know that that's exactly what the MOU covers, is that the Brundage Ski Patrol handles everything within the boundaries of their resort, but when they have to go outside, then they call the sheriff, and then they become an agent for the county. And that might be exactly what we want. We just want to make sure that we've got exactly the type of coverage, and ICRIMP is aware of that and was going to honor those agreements in order for us to rest easy that we're not going to end up with a claim denied and then have a personal injury lawsuit that we'd have to defend.
That's what I want to make sure of, is that we actually do understand and everybody is clear on what's covered and what's not covered. It's ICRIMP, that's our work comp. Now, who's our work comp?
State Insurance Fund.
Oh, state insurance.
Sorry to misspeak on that.
So Brian, or maybe Pat, you know this, I don't know who to ask, but if our search and rescue go out somewhere on a search and they request anybody to come in and help, are all those people going to be under workman's comp?
Should be. But we need to have agreements to that effect, that when they recruit volunteers, that they're eligible for the kind of coverage that commensurate with the risks that they're taking.
And I think that's done quite regularly, having outside folks who's ever available.
It needs to be one of two things. We have the kind of coverage that we need for the volunteers, or they need to sign a waiver that they're assuming the risk and that they'll be handling any risk of loss, whether it's injury or equipment damage, with their own. And I know that's kind of I'm complicating the process with a lot of paperwork, but that's why those kinds of things occur.
Well, I think it's a complicated issue. I mean, Larry just told me that when they went out to research for search and rescue, they found out they didn't have medical insurance for any of their guys.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is something that does need to be thoroughly researched. We need to know exactly who's covered, who's not covered.
Yeah.
Protecting not only the county, but those that are serving on behalf of the county.
And that's the least we could do for those that dedicate their time and volunteer their services to put themselves in harm's way to provide a good service to the county. So, certainly.
Maybe, Brian, if we approve this year, this could be something that I think the sheriff's department needs to put in their purview to research all of this before next year.
Yeah.
Where you guys would see that?
Kind of ping them to do some of the groundwork and then submit a request for legal advice, and I'll review it as well.
Brian, something else to keep in the back of your mind. The last paragraph talks about, this will commence on the date of execution and go until it's canceled or amended. And I think it should be an annual So we might want to change that part of it as well.
Okay.
This was signed by them in November 10th. I mean, what have they been doing in the almost, I mean, it's 45 days at least, so right now they don't have any protection.
Right.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion then to sign it.
I'll make motion that we sign the memorandum of understanding with Brundage Mountain Ski Patrol or Ski Area Search and Rescue.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. I think something else too is we need to look and see if we have one with Tamarack, an official document with Tamarack, because we know that's going to be coming. Anyway, so it's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Who wants to work with the sheriff's office on this one?
I can do it.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, our next agenda item is also an action item. This is a direct bill application for Hotel 43 in Boise, Idaho. And this is just a standard form,
I move to approve the direct bill application with Hotel 43, since I stay there a lot.
I'll second that.
Is that a second?
Second, yeah.
Moved and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Okay, our next agenda item is to accept snow drag funding from the 2021 RAC funding. I don't remember this one.
I think we got it
Good.
in our packet, or was it last week? Remember which one?
I think it was last week.
Those two.
Horizon, so.
So basically, Larry, this is the monies that you've been waiting for, correct?
That's correct.
So this was the missing chunk though. Didn't we have a difference in the price from when it was originally bid? Could you, as I say, could you just clarify that? That was the question that came up this week. Wasn't it, it's a RAC grant that covers a portion of the, it's a
Yeah.
RAC grant that's based on us getting money from IDPR and our
Yeah,
contribution.
we got the IDPR grant 3 years ago, and it took 2 years for them to finally fund it. And by the time they funded it, the cost of the drag was another $7,118 or something like that. And so we applied for that through RAC and got that. Now we're finally getting the balance of that grant.
And there was something that Mary had to submit.
Oh,
Is that on
my.
this? There's a
Yes.
bunch of information that has to be submitted along with it, including a statement that we are drug testing all your people. All the groomers and everything are county employees. They have to go through all the
Oh,
drug
yeah,
testing.
there was
correct?
drug-free workforce and all sorts of things. She filled them all out and sent them back to Brian Harris, and Harris said now they go through the process of approving those, and I guess they got a lot of new people involved in the RAC grant process, so they're changing everything.
So everything that we were given is things that you can state are affirmative, we're following.
Yeah, everything's done.
I move then to accept the snow drag funding from the 2021 RAC funding and approve the chairman to sign the documents stating that we are in compliance.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's always
Doug,
good
are
to get
those
money.
the AD 1047 and 1049 forms?
They are, yeah.
Chairman, I believe that they are, but let me make sure that
Yeah, U.S. Department of Agriculture, 47.
Okay, so I do need to sign those. Once you get them. Those printed out. Okay, the next one on our agenda item is another action item. This is, I guess, to change the agency contact information for the Idaho State Treasurer's Office. And let's see if we can find that.
Doug, do you have those documents printed? Or do you want me to print them? The ag stuff.
I don't know if I have believe that I do have them turned off.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure.
Where did we get this? Who did it come from? I don't remember seeing that.
The 80-1047. It was part of our.
Oh, no, not the
Oh,
AD
okay.
stuff, the contact change. I didn't know what we're talking about there. I didn't see anything about that. The
The
treasurer's office.
treasurer's office is taking over they're combining two offices, correct, Doug? And so the state treasurer now is taking over a lot of the reporting information for the clerk's office.
This is. We're changing this is something that the treasurers requested for the local government investment pool. It's the agency contact information change form that was presented, or that was provided in your packet. I guess I would request that the treasurer come and provide further explanation of the requirement.
Can we go get her?
Not what I-
Did we do this a while back, Doug?
Mr. Chairman, I can't
That was for something else.
tell you yes or no.
Get her on some of the checking accounts.
Everybody looks so awake on this Monday on a Tuesday.
All well rest.
Can't give Jeff 3 days off. We can't give you 3 days off. You're not used to that much sleep.
We don't either.
5 days off.
2 days off.
You still have it?
Good for
I
you.
gave it to Doug to put in the packet and then we emailed you a copy of
Let
it.
me give you a brief description here. It is change form for Idaho State Treasurer's Office agency contact information.
Yes, so when I am entering month-end tax turnover,
Mhm.
there's amount that has to be entered in at the state treasurer's office. And so I was creating a login for Rita so that she can log in, but it has to be signed by the commissioners for them to make that change.
And we have that form here.
Not-
Oh, there we go.
So that's what that form is
Gotcha.
for, is to just get Rita a sign on so that she has access to that. I don't need to be removed because working in the treasurer's office, I still need to be able to sign into state treasurer's office. So we're just adding Rita as a
Okay.
sign in.
Everybody get that?
Perfect. And I did already add her on my side, but I was able to sign it, and I think Doug signed as a witness.
Anybody want to look at this?
That's not what I thought it was though, so thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no, I just didn't see
Okay,
it.
so I'll make the motion then that we add Rita Kling to the agency contact information form for the local government improvement investment pool.
I'll second that.
Moved in second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. While I'm doing this, we'll go on down. I believe it's our last action item in commissioner's discussion. And this is to change the order form with Verizon for GPS devices. Jeremy, come on up. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners, Chairman. This is the exact same order form that you signed last time. The change is because 7, I believe, pieces of equipment are heavy iron Caterpillars and John Deere's. And the device that they have to hook to the engine management doesn't work on those because those companies charge obscene amounts of money to get engine management. So they have a version that is just the tracker that will still work for tracking them out when they're plowing snow and doing all that kind of stuff for the purposes that we want it for. But it's a different device. It's actually cheaper, but they can't just substitute it out. They actually have to have an order form signed for it. But it's the same one that you've already signed.
As long as it
The
does the
other
same
week.
function
It
as the
does.
rest, we're okay.
And we save a few bucks though on those 7.
So I would entertain the motion for us to sign this change order form with Verizon.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Something with Verizon cost less? Are you
I know.
sure? Did Oki look at this?
Jeremy, do we have that form?
It was a DocuSign, so
Oh,
Clerk
boy.
Mueller should be able to forward that to you.
I'm not very good at those. He knows me too well.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Jeremy.
you.
Mr. Chairman, before we move forward, can I have you sign these other ones for the
Yep.
grant, please? Get myself in order here. This is for the Idema security
That's for the
fingerprint machine.
What's your phone number? 3100?
I get 7100.
7100. This goes with it, that goes with it. Okay.
Maybe.
This is for the rat grant.
Oh, did you put the woody debris burning?
Yeah.
on the- Did you invite Juan?
I think I did, yes. I should have one more.
I don't think there was a signature page on this one. There was one that I had to sign as just to provide them with an understanding of our financial
Okay.
information, so I don't see anywhere else that the signature is required, but I will double check.
Okay, so we can go on then down our agenda. Our next item is an action item. This is a discussion decision on letter of support for Boise State Valley County project. And I'm not
This is one that I
privy
sat.
to this.
So the fire department, Juan brought this to, I'm trying to think which meeting it was in, the all risk management. This is a group out of Boise State that is looking at putting together an actual portal for people that are at risk for hazard. They chose Valley County because we have all different kinds of hazards. And it will give data for supplying grants and everything and data sets for FEMA, basically, to be able to provide grant funding for any of the grants that we apply for. So they're creating data for FEMA applications in the future. And I think as we move forward, this is going to be really strategic and helpful to Valley County. Juan was at the head of this. Juan's asking for this letter of support to do this study. And they're actually going to create a website portal to be used for this.
So has there been a letter created yet?
There is, and it's in our packet. It basically
There-
just
it
says
is?
letters in support of the FEMA risk map cooperating technical partners.
Yeah, it's a grad project too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Graduate student that's working on it.
Yep. And I need to save this and change it because in order to sign it, we've got to put our organizational name in there.
I'm trying to find the letter.
The name of it's letter of support template.
It's just the one from Brittany Brand and Dr. McPherson. Pritzky,
Yes.
FEMA Risk Map Cooperating Technical Partners. immunizing flood and other hazard data for use in local resilience planning. So is this doesn't cost us any money, I'm assuming?
It does not.
So does everybody understand this? Everybody's good with it?
I am.
So I think this is awesome to have somebody come in and do something like this. Looks like a lot of work. So I would entertain a motion to approve this letter of support.
I'll make the motion. We approve the letter of support with Boise State for the Valley County project.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And you're gonna retitle that and print it out?
I'm doing it right now.
Awesome. Okay, so then we'll just keep on going here. Our next item is also an action item. This is a decision, discussion on review of vehicle use policy. Request to allow road department and rec employees to take vehicles home. I know, Jeff, this is something we talked about here a week or two ago. The issue, what it comes down to is that you will have to pay tax on that benefit. And yeah, come on up. And I'm trying to figure out if it's worth it to you and us to have to do this function, or how you feel about it.
So this happened probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Our previous,
I was gonna say, I feel like it was just yesterday we went through all this.
our previous attorney stated that if we continued to take them home, there was a line in there, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, between commuting and working on IRS forms. So if we take a vehicle home, and it would only be myself and Andy, and then possibly if we work out this on-call person on the weekend, I'm trying to follow McCall's kind of the way they do things. We are considered emergency personnel. That overrides, from what I understand, this IRS thing. So if I take a pickup home tomorrow, I don't leave my house tonight with it to go to an emergency. I drive it to work in the morning, that's commuting. I have to keep that separate from going from my house to a road washing out or a tree down in the middle of the night. I had to keep all that separate. Too big of a headache for me. I've talked to Chris Malvich, the City of McCall superintendent up there. He was just kind of dumbfounded that we had our 2 vehicles taken away because of this. He goes, we're considered emergency personnel. Like the ex-captain Jason Spears stated, he goes, you're just as much emergency as we are, because if we don't get the trees cut out of the way, our roads plowed, all this other stuff, the deputies can't do their job. So,
Nobody can do their job.
and it's like I said last Monday, kind of off the record, that I live in Round Valley. If I have a road washing out a half mile away, I got to come all the way to Cascade, get my work pickup started, get snow cleaned off. By the time I get back down there, the road's gone, when it could have just taken 1 or 2 shovelfuls of dirt to open the culvert up. It has nothing to do with me saving money, Andy saving money. It's emergency response time. And our radio's right there. So if we have something going on and I can't leave the house for some reason, I'm sick or something, I can go sit in the pickup and at least talk to the crew.
And I think that's worth a lot, just that point in
It is.
itself. You know, I know a lot of times you guys just do stuff over the cell phone. I guess my thing is, and it's more of a question for Doug, is payroll willing to do this for you and for Andy? I don't think,
This hadn't,
Has nothing.
before, this had nothing to do with payroll.
but if we change this to where we allow you to take it home, well, maybe this is a question for Brian, do we need to declare him as an emergency personnel person so that that won't have to be taken out? I'm not sure how to proceed here, because I can understand both sides of it.
Well, unfortunately, the exception isn't for emergency personnel. It's for the type of vehicle that is being allowed to take home. and whether it is likely to be used for personal use. So if the road department was taken, I think one of the examples that I gave in the email was a snow plow home so they could be available and ready. That's not the kind of vehicle that you take to the grocery store and pick up groceries or drop the kids off. But if it's an F-150, most likely going to be considered taxable fringe. Now, let me get this straight. I want to be very clear on this. The exception to the policy of not allowing work trucks to go home is within your purview to make that decision. Certainly, you can say that the needs of the county justify the road department being allowed to do this. The question is, how is the IRS going to view it? And if it's a F-150 that goes home, it's more than likely going to be in that class of vehicle that they would consider taxable fringe, and that needs to be reported as taxable fringe. There are very specific exceptions for law enforcement with marked emergency vehicles, and because of like I said, it's the type of use that those vehicles will be used for. A fully equipped sheriff's vehicle is not the kind of thing that you can use for personal use, but for work use only. And so it's a little bit different for the road department, any other department within the county. It's taxable fringe. There's a number of ways you can calculate that, and it's a small amount. It might be an amount that would be worth it to make an exception to the policy. But to comply with the IRS guidance associated with this, if the type of vehicle that would be used to go from work and home and back again is the type of vehicle that would ordinarily, it's unmarked, it's not heavy equipment, it's just an F-150 or whatever it is, that's likely going to fall in that category of a taxable fringe vehicle.
What about the fact that it has the county logo on it? And I mean, Jeff, do you have a vehicle that's got work boxes on the back of it, and
Yeah, we're all set up, and we're smart enough not to take it to the grocery store after work.
Well, that's what I'm gonna say, with a county logo on it, I mean, we're gonna
Right.
hear about it all day long
Right.
immediately, so the first time that happens, they're in trouble.
Right, and again,
You
it's
just don't stop at the grocery store on the way home.
certainly not. I'm not implying that the vehicle would be misused. It's the value. It's the value to the employee of being able to commute from home to work and then from work back home again without the expense and the wear and tear on their personal vehicles, which is really that's a normal, ordinary expense for all county employees. This would be additional compensation to those who do not have to put fuel in their own vehicle or change the oil as frequently. And so that's considered by the IRS as compensation. And that's why that is considered taxable fringe and should be reported. And it has nothing to do with, those middle of the night calls that Jeff has to go out on. That's work related. That's business. That's a business expense that's not taxable to the employee. But when you get up in the morning and you commute here to the courthouse, and if you do it in your own vehicle, that's an expense out of your pocket versus those who are commuting back and forth. And that's part of the compensation package that those employees are given.
So Brian, kind of trend on with that thought, if Jeff went to somewhere in the Round Valley, because everything north of Cascade, he would stop and get his regular pickup. Could we compensate him for his mileage in his personal?
Absolutely.
Go to an emergency.
I don't have everything at home that I need to take
No,
care
that's
of.
the issue.
I don't have a county radio in my personal pickup. I don't have handhelds. Yeah, if I take my own chainsaw, hit a rock, I'm gonna charge the county for a new chain.
Well, and I don't have an issue with you taking the county vehicle home at night. I think that's appropriate. But you're gonna have to keep records and pay the tax on that.
Right, it almost sounds like somebody
wanna know
like
how-
myself is getting a hold of the city of McCall to see how they do it.
That's what I'm
Because
curious
they've-
too.
They've never stopped doing it. They've always done it. We always did it up till about 4 years ago. But, Carol dug into it, and from what I'm listening to Brian explain it a little more in depth, it all makes sense to me. It's definitely benefit for a couple of us.
I wonder if we shouldn't check with Zygert.
Or gas.
Mhm.
I definitely, I understand both sides of it. I'm just now I'm trying to figure out how the city of McCall's doing it.
Well, an auditor is going to pick this up when they're audited annually.
Right,
So that's where they'll pick it up and then they'll inform us we have to make a change or,
right.
somehow we have to report this benefit to the IRS. If you're willing to keep track of those records and that, I don't have an issue with it. I would rather you have it home than,
It was just more of a, when I first got told about it, it's like, oh.
Couldn't we
all my other
check?
stuff, I gotta keep all this stuff separated now.
We can check all we want, but legal counsel is pretty clear of
Yeah.
Yeah.
what we need to do. I mean, I guess we need to come up with a procedure if in fact that this is done. Is Jeff going to create a spreadsheet of how often he takes it home, or it's just?
So the IRS guidance that's published on taxable fringe benefits requires that the employer report that as compensation, and there's 2 or 3 options, and I think from my perspective, the simplest way to do this is one of the options that you can select is the mileage reimbursement, just as if we were reimbursing Jeff to use his personal vehicle. The miles from his home to the courthouse and then back again can easily be computed by the number of miles that is, and then you use the federal rate for mileage reimbursement, and then that's included in his pay stub monthly as a line of a taxable fringe benefit. So it doesn't require Jeff to do anything. It does require the clerk some additional accounting for that taxable fringe, but it will be reported on the employee's pay stub, and it's fairly simple on Jeff's end. Just want everybody to know what that line is for and why there's some additional compensation being reported with employment taxes being withheld.
Commissioner Mopin, my apologies. I think now that this has been presented by Mr. Oki, I think we will talk with Zweigarts just to find out if it's 5 days a week, if it's 7 days a week, what is the official requirement. So yeah, I'll reach out to Zweigarts and Associates. They'll be up next week, so we can have a personal conversation with them.
so
Well, I
Doug,
just think it's interesting that other entities are doing it. So we need to figure out what they're doing, to get around that. I mean, I support Jeff in his endeavors to try and do this. I mean, Annette said that, she would like to do it too, but I think that there has to be an emergency need. It's not just that you've got to go out the next morning on.
Yeah, no, I concur. That's what I was kind of thinking as well, is I almost think like it should be on a rotational basis or something. If
That's
it's
what I'm wondering too.
within the department, is maybe one person's on call and they take the truck home that night. And I know you're still gonna get a phone call.
Well, I always take all the initial phone calls and I dispatch who needs to go.
So let me caution you on a couple of things. One, on-call is different, and there are some different Fair Labor Standards Act requirements that we have to comply with that are related to on-call employees, which means they're basically on the clock at a reduced rate, and so keep that in
Change
mind.
his salary. Change his compensation.
Right, versus
That's
using.
right.
What's your hourly rate look
Welcome to
like?
management, Jeff.
$6 an hour.
So you have this on-call category that is kind of viewed and handled differently from a Fair Labor Standards Act. What we're talking about is using a county vehicle, being allowed to take that home in anticipation that there's going to be a call, which they may or may not be on call. That's just a convenience for the county and its employees to be able to respond to those emergencies a little bit quicker.
Mm-hmm.
There's really 2 things going on there. One is the management of county equipment, which is part of the vehicle use policy, which prohibits personal use of county vehicles and equipment. A narrow exception is being allowed to allow for a couple of employees to take that equipment home and park it in their driveway so it's available for use. That's different than on-call. And then separate and apart from that is how you account for that additional compensation. the IRS guide's fairly straightforward on how we can do that and manage it. Your decision to make is whether or not you want to allow it or not.
So I think after listening to the discussion, I think we should table this until Doug has an interview with our auditor to see if we can set this up and do it quickly and easily and what the conditions are. And then do you think you'll have it ready by next Monday, Doug, or should we put it off for 2 weeks?
No, I think we can get an answer. It's just gonna be a requirement from our office to calculate 5 days a week, 7 days a week. It's just gonna be the mileage to and from the individual's homes. So I think we can get this clarified.
Wrong calendar, Doug.
And I think it would not be recreation then. I think it would just.
No,
be-
I don't think recreation.
Yeah, I was gonna
even-
say, I think we have to really make sure that we're sticking within that emergency category.
Right, right, I agree.
So, Doug, if you go back to when Jerry Robinson was here, this came up and was being taxed to him as a fringe benefit because he was taking a pickup home. And I can't remember what it was, but there was something going on, just like Oki explained with this mileage deal. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I don't even know if it's possible to even go back that far to look to see how that was being done with him, but it sounds like exactly the same thing. And then it got kind of dropped off the face of the earth and now it's back again.
Well, and I think it's okay for us to come back and forth on that, Jeff, honestly,
Right.
because what I'm trying to do is set it up so that you don't have to drive into town every time you have an emergency to get your rate.
Well, in
That's just crazy.
Springtime, 60% of our emergencies are that side of Cascade. Because of the water issues.
Right, right. So then we'll postpone this one until next week. We'll get it on the calendar and see what Doug comes up with and see if we can't get this done for you.
Okay, Sounds
And
good.
give us a little more time.
okay, thank you.
Need to take a 5-minute break.
Yeah, we don't have, our next action item is an executive session in 5 minutes, and then at 10:30, we're doing the woody debris. So we'll see everybody back here probably closer to 10:30.
Do the commissioners want to go into executive session?
Not just
now,
yet.
Mr. Chairman?
Not just yet, give us 5 minutes, I need a break too.
We want to go into it now, Doug, so you can turn it off.
That's what I was proposing, but we'll just wait.
That would be, well, 5 o'clock in the morning, you have to go up an emergency. You don't get